Alright, what I did is I took the trim that I bought at the dollar store. It looks very shiny. I don't know if you can see it on camera. They look like little rhinestones. 3 rows of rhinestones. They call it diamond trim, and you get it in the floral department at the dollar store. Well, what I did with that is I took it and I measured around my lid enough to make sure it goes all the way around the edge with some overlap, with extra. You want extra because it's better to have extra and trim off than not enough and have to piece in. You don't want to do that. So I'm going to make my seam line along here, and this is where we will use hot glue because you just need it. And you're going to start adding a little bead of glue. And you're going to go around as you go. So you put your first row on, and I'm going to put it right up to the edge of the top of the lid, just to the edge. I don't want to hang above the top, but I want it just along that edge. So see that edge? See that's covering all that? So when you turn over, you're going to see it this way. Alright, as I go along, I'm going to use the hot glue to adhere the rest of this trim. Now I know what you're saying. You're saying that trim doesn't cover the whole side of the lid. Why is that short? Why do you see paper sticking out? Is that a good idea? No, it's not. But the trim just was only so wide. I'll show you my remedy for fixing that in a moment. Alright, so we just continue to glue the lid down, glue the trim down rather on the lid. Be careful not to burn your fingers. If you need to use a pencil or something to help, better to burn the pencil than yourself. That would hurt. So I'm just continuing to glue this trim down. Just some more. We're almost done. Of course, we're going to come back to where we started, and that is going to be our seam to where we started. So I just glued it down to meet up with where I started it. You see how there was a little extra in here, huh? We're going to cut that off, so we don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to take it and cut it off where it meets up. One more. Okay. So far, this is what we have. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? Try it on our box. Woo! Now our box is pink, shiny, and blingy. What's not to like, right? Okay, found out my trim was just a little too narrow. Didn't want to fit and cover the whole lid. So what I did is, if you see the trim, I showed you the trim before, it had 3 rows of rhinestones, right? 3 rows. Well, I just took my scissors and I just trimmed one of those rows out because that's what I figured I needed. I didn't need 2 rows, I didn't need 3 rows, I needed 1. So I just trimmed that out. And I'm going to do the same thing with this row that I did with the other trim. Alright, I'm going to find my seam. Here's my seam from the last time. You always want to start it in, right along with that old seam. And I'm going to do my outer layer of glue. This could get really hot, so be careful. I'm going to put this in line. Make sure your little rhinestones line up too, because you don't want them, you know, sitting crazy either on your box. See, like if I didn't line up all those rhinestones together, and once you got around, you would notice if there was 3 rhinestones here and then the other rhinestone started over here and there was a gap, it would look funny. We always want to make sure it's looking as professional as possible, right? So I've got my rhinestones lined up. These 4 rhinestones line up. And I'm just going to glue around this edge. When we come back, I will show you the finished lid, and then I will show you how to put on our pretty little knob. And like I said, they're not expensive. If you go to Hobby Lobby or Michael's and you wait for the sale. I'm not sure if Michael's sells knobs, but I know that Hobby Lobby definitely does. So I will show you how to put that on when we come back. Alright. Alrighty. I have finished covering the edge of the lid. And you may find trim that is wide enough, and you don't have to do any extra trimming. Hopefully you do. This just happened, like I said, to be at the dollar store. It was $1, and I'm like, oh, I can trim that and I can make it fit. So now everything's covered. Once again, this is what our box is going to look like once we're done. Right? So pretty. But now, of course, this pretty box needs a pretty knob, right? Okay. Well, I'm going to show you how to put that in. First, I'm going to measure across the top of the box. I know it's 4 inches, so I know the center of the box is 2 inches. I'll just put a little tiny mark right there with my pencil. And then I'm going to measure this way. You need to measure this way and this way, so you want to get right dead center. So we got dead center. Another 2 inches. The 2 inches is right dead center of the box. We know that this is where our knob needs to go, because we wouldn't want to put it over here. That would look pretty funny, wouldn't it? On the side. That just would look funny. So we're going to put it in the center of the box. Now that we have our center found and marked, we're going to take a drill with a drill bit. Now, your parents will probably have to do this for you, of course, unless you're old enough. And what I have done is there is a screw on this knob here, and you can see that it also has a nut, it has a washer, and I'll explain that more as we go along. Well, you want to find a bit that is not larger than your screw. You just want a bit that's a little smaller than the circumference, see? Because you don't want to drill too big a hole. Just a hole slightly smaller than what this will fit through. And that's very important. You don't want to get it too big. Alright, I'm going to put this in my drill, and we're going to drill our hole. At the top of my box, and just a gentle, it doesn't take much because it's cardboard, let's face it. If you could do a wooden box if you wanted. Okay, now that we've done that, we have drilled a hole for our knob to fit, you see? Okay. We're going to put on this knob. The knob has a long screw and it has a nut that holds the screw or the knob in place, and so it gives it extra strength. It also has a washer. A washer is a little flat disc of metal, and what that does, it just stabilizes your knob, so over time when you're using your knob, it doesn't create a larger hole in your box. It wears itself through, and you can create a larger hole, and then your knob would come out, and we don't want that. So I'm going to take the nut off. I don't know if you can see what a nut looks like. That's the nut. It will hold your knob in place. And this is the washer. It's a very thin piece of metal with a hole through it. Round piece. I'm going to take my knob. I'm going to, because I made the hole a little bit smaller than the screw, I'm going to have to force it a little bit, and it means twist it through. Twist it through like you would any knob. See, now it's fitting through. Okay. I have my knob on, but if I don't put that screw and nut in place, it's just going to pull right out the minute I try to pull it off the box. We don't want that. So we're going to turn this over on its back, and we're going to put the washer, that little round flat disc, in first. That will help to stabilize And then on goes the nut. We just screw that down in. You can cut this screw shorter. Maybe have Dad take a hacksaw to it or a Dremel tool and shorten it so it doesn't stick up so much in your lid. It's a pretty, this one is over 1 inch in screw length, and you could cut it much shorter if you want it down in there, which is, you know, recommended, but I'm not going to do it for today. Alright, I'm going to tighten my knob, and there you have a pretty knob. Now we got a finished product. We're going to put our seam side of our trim. I'm going to find the seam side of our trim on the box. Oh, there it is. And we're going to line it up. And there you go. Clean off any of the little hairs, glue hairs is what I call them. And when the hot glue dries, it kind of leaves a trail of glue. You want to pull that off because that's not very professional, is it? And here you have a pretty box that you can give as a gift, or you can set on your dresser. One of my nieces made me this bracelet, and I do wear it at times, so thank you very much. And I could put it in my box. Like I said, you can finish the inside if you want, any way that you want, but at least we have the outside finished. Boy, doesn't that look nice. It's pink, it's blingy, it's shiny, it's girly. It is uber girly, right? But what little girl wouldn't like this box, or to give to somebody as a gift? If you want to do it for a boy, you could just make it masculine. You don't have to bling it up. You can use different types of paper and different types of trim, but that is how we make that box. And you have an option. I also made a heart box. This is really nice too. Shape of a heart. I did the very same thing with this box that I did with the round box. Just added all the trim, take the lid off. You see why that we didn't put that paper above? And the lid goes on much easier than if we had had the excess paper. But I did the same thing, finished it off the same way, and you have a heart. Always make sure your pattern runs correctly, doesn't run crooked, wonky. You want to run so that when you look at it, it looks pleasing to the eye, and it's even all the way around. Clean up any edges, and that's what you have. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you next time.